Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
As we study the Bible, we get to know people with all kinds of character, motives, and actions. It's always good to stop and think about how we resemble these people, how we can act like them sometimes, and what we can learn from their motives and mistakes. In Acts 12, a new character comes to the scene. It identifies him as Herod the king. But since the New Testament contains several Herods, we first got to get them all straight. We know Herod the Great, or not so great, who ruled at the time of Jesus' birth. He was the one who had all the babies of Bethlehem killed. He also killed his own son, Aristobulus, who was father of the Herod mentioned here in Acts 12. Aristobulus' brother, King Herod Antipas, we would also recognize because he ordered the beheading of John the Baptist. So this Herod in Acts 12, Herod Agrippa, is Herod Antipas's nephew. Agrippa had been raised in Rome, but he was related to the famous Maccabees through his mother's side, so when he was sent to rule Judea and Samaria in AD 37, he was rather popular. He attempted to follow Jewish law and tried his best to keep up his favor with the Jewish leadership. For a moment, let's think about what's been going on in Christian circles. They'd had a time of relative peace from persecution. The church was growing and spreading, and Gentiles were being welcomed into their fellowship. Jews and Gentiles were mixing. Do you remember how upset the Jewish Christians were at first when Peter told them about the Gentile Cornelius' salvation? Well, you can just imagine how the Pharisees and Sadducees took the news. They were furious. Seeing this, Herod Agrippa, in an effort to please the Jewish leaders, took James, John's brother, one who had been in Jesus' inner circle, one of the main leaders of the church, and killed him. When he saw how happy that made the Jewish leaders, he grabbed Peter and put him in jail, planning to kill him too after the hubbub of Passover died down. And it says here he sent 16 soldiers to guard Peter. Now that seems a little overkill, but remember when Peter and John were in jail before? An angel brought them out, and no one realized it until they couldn't find them the next morning. Maybe Herod had heard about that, and he wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. Agrippa did all of this just to please the Jewish leaders. Remember what Peter said before the Sanhedrin? What is right, to please man or please God? I'm going to stop right there today because that brings up a good point for our lives. What things are we doing to please people? As Paul says in Galatians 1:10, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. We might be doing godly things like ministry or service, but if we're doing them because we think others expect us to and not because God called us to it, that's the wrong motive. That can get you one very busy life, but not necessarily God's blessing. Besides, if you're doing ministry God has not called you to, that means the person God prepared for that position isn't doing it. You're robbing them of that blessing. On the flip side, what are you doing to please God? Just because you love Him and you want to make Him smile, because you know it contributes to His kingdom and He has prepared those things for you to do. He's given you specific gifts and talents for that specific ministry. Those are the things you should be doing. Sometimes we've just got to stop and evaluate our priorities and our motives for even the good things we do.
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes at our website, which you can find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.